stanza number 6. So do you like to follow me to recite? Parechana vijananti mayametta yamamasi yecha tattva vijananti tatto sammanti medaga. So now follow me. Parechana vijananti mayametta yamamasi yecha tattva vijananti tatto sammanti medaga. Once again. Parechana vijananti mayametta yamamasi yecha tattva vijananti tatto sammanti medaga. So we must get used to this language also. Pali word. The language spoken by the Buddha. Very old. People are coming. Meaning. The others know not that in this quarrel we perish. Those of them who realize it have their quarrels calmed thereby. Now this is the literary translation of the Pali words. The Buddha had to recite this stanza, in other words, to give this advice because of an incident. Due to certain disciplinary code, a minor disciplinary code, there was a dispute amongst the Sangha community. So it has affected their goodwill and understanding and friendship, and they were divided into two groups, argue. So it has become very serious. The Buddha advised them 3 times not to create misunderstanding or dispute. You must work together. This is a very minor incident, but they did not listen to the Buddha. 3 times he advised. They were very stubborn monks. So, those monks who were staying in the same monastery with the Buddha, after listening to his teaching almost every day, if their behavior is such 2,500 years ago, what about the situation today? This is a human nature. It's very difficult to change. The main reason is our egoism. Although we are wrong, although we have done wrong things or mistakes, we are not ready to admit that we are wrong. This is the biggest problem or weakness. It is weakness. If we can admit, yes, I am sorry, I have done that, I apologize, settle the problem. But they don't want to say, or they don't want to admit, that they try to argue, to justify. Either to say nothing wrong, if not they deny. And because of this situation, they create enmity, they get angry, they create violence, and so many other problems. So this is a very simple saying of the Buddha. But if we really practice this, we can avoid, we can get rid of so many problems and troubles and enmities and violence and misunderstanding. We have to say, I am sorry, I have done that due to misunderstanding or lack of understanding. So I apologize for that. Finish. But many people are not ready to do that. They want to fight, they want to argue. And this strong egoism is our biggest enemy. We are facing so many problems because of this, our own egoism. If we have learned to be humble and to accept our mistake, then very easily we can associate with others, work with others without facing many problems. Last night I gave a talk at Genting Highlands. Why do we need a religion? Can you give me the answer to this question? Why do we need a religion? What is your answer? No answer. Pardon? Peace of mind. That means at the moment there is no peace. Another answer? But you like peace, but others don't like peace. Another answer. I can give you the correct answer. We need a religion because we are bad. So simple. If we are good, not necessary to have religion. Medicine is important when we are sick. If we are healthy, no use of medicine. It's exactly like that. Religion is needed because we are bad. This is one of them, that egoism. We have so many weaknesses, wrong ideas or misconception, bad habit, immoral practices, selfishness. Then we develop jealousy, anger, ill will, enmity, and violence. There is no any other method, either science or technology or any other worldly subject, that which can change our mind. Those things cannot change the mind. We become more stubborn and develop more egoism, pride, and jealousy. The more we learn worldly subject, the more we develop these human weaknesses also. So religion is the only solution to train, to change, to tame, or to cultivate and to purify them. Now, why do we observe 5 precepts? By knowing those things are wrong, we promise or we determine not to commit, not to violate this bad habit, immoral habit. Then it will become religion. So when we try to be good by doing good, there are 3 things here. We try to do good, but we never try to be good. To do good is not very difficult. We can do a lot of good work, but to be good is very difficult. And it is more difficult for us not to do certain things. Doing things is not very difficult, but not to do is very difficult. Religion is important here to train that human mind. There are so many worldly subjects where we can gain some knowledge, some information, some ideas. We learn certain technique, but these things never cultivate or purify our mind. Because of these worldly subject, we develop more craving, more attachment, then develop certain other defilements. Religion is important for us to maintain that humane qualities, human dignity, by giving due credit to human intelligence. We have all these qualities, but our nature, our habit, our character influence us to do more bad things, more harmful things, more immoral things. Just now I told you, to do good is not very difficult, but to be good is very, very difficult. So what is the difference? To be good, you must be honest. That honesty is very difficult thing to practice. But you can do a lot of good things. Be kind. You can help others, support others, assist others, but real compassion or kindness is not in you. To be good, you must be kind. To be good, you had to withdraw your selfishness. By keeping your selfishness, it is difficult for you to be good. Religion teaches us how to do this. Usually, many people take religion only for worshipping and praying and offerings and chanting and for certain rites and rituals and ceremonies, religion. But they never think the main purpose of religion is for us to be good. Without performing any of those rites and rituals or ceremonies, we can cultivate our life. Those who have no religion, those who do not believe in God or Buddha, those who have no idea about heaven or hell, those who never think about merits, those who have no idea about rebirth, among them there are many who are good people. Through their understanding, by doing good, by upholding humane qualities, they never plan to go to heaven. They never try to please any God or Buddha. They have no such idea to be born in a rich family or somewhere else. But they know how to appreciate, how to fulfill certain duties, how to behave as noble, harmless human beings. They are real gentlemen. Because the followers of all these religions do good, try to be good, but they have an ulterior motive, purpose, either to enjoy their life within this lifetime or hereafter, either to go to heaven and enjoy life, if not to have so many other things. But there are many others who perform the same virtues, qualities, maintain them without expecting anything in return. We have to cultivate this. Now let us take the Buddhas and Arahantas. They do a lot of good deeds, dedicated their life to serve others, but they have no ulterior motive. They have no idea of making merits, because they have ended their journey, completed, perfected. So they are free from such selfish idea. But we use religion as a vehicle to do something and to gain something in return. We want long life, we want healthy life, we want to be rich, and we want to go to heaven, and we want to be very pretty and handsome. How many things are there? It's not bad. Naturally you gain these things. So the Buddha's advice is here. Dānaṁ khalu sabhavena sagga manusa bhoga. Naturally, when you perform some meritorious deeds, you gain. It is natural. You gain something. Some of those things that you are waiting to receive, to gain. But if you limit, if you lower the real religious value of your meritorious deeds, you are not wise. You can cultivate your way of thinking without depending on worldly material things. But further, I can explain further. We always use two words Punya and Kusala, Pali language. In English we use only one word, merits. But that word doesn't give the real meaning. What is Punya? Chittang punati ti punya. Whenever we do some good deeds with happiness, by reducing anger, jealousy, grudge and ill will, cruelty, otherwise we cannot develop happiness. So when we do some good deeds with happiness, this is called punya, merit. What is the result or the effect of this punya or this merit? Through the influence of this merit, this punya, we gain worldly material things for us to lead a comfortable life. We gain enough requisite, our necessity, without difficulty. This we can understand when we compare our way of life with others who suffer in this world. This is the effect or the result of our punya merit. But the trouble is, after experiencing all the good result, there is nothing left out. You spend everything. This is the danger in our life. Assume we have done some good merits, punya, during our last birth. And today we are leading a very peaceful, happy, prosperous life without suffering too much. That means we are spending the merits that we have accrued during our previous birth. Then what will happen to us if we keep quiet while enjoying, spending the merits? What is our destiny hereafter, after our death? Nobody knows. This is the uncertainty of our life. Therefore, within this lifetime, while enjoying, we had to make more and more punya, merit, for the next life. Alright? In the next life also, we enjoy our life. If we have neglected making merit in the next life, nobody knows what will happen to this life. Then how long can we carry on this? Where is the end of it? And now you can understand why the Buddha says, the more you remain in this samsara, in this world, the more you have to suffer because of this uncertainty. People are crazy for merit or punya. But after enjoying, spending, you have to make again. Now let us take the other word, kusala. Also we use the word merit. But there is difference between punya and kusala. Kusala means skillful. Whatever we have done wisely, skillfully, good deeds for the benefit of others, with understanding. Then it will become kusala, not punya. Example. By realizing destroying others' life is bad, cruel, wicked, that create enormous sufferings. We separate a life by force. from the body. That is called killing. So by considering all these things, we determine to observe this precept that I don't want to kill. Then that concept you have created is a kusalakam, not punya. Because this mental attitude, the kindness and compassion and understanding and knowledge, the wisdom that you have cultivated in your mind to avoid this, you can continue life after life until you attain Nibbana, final goal. This is the advantage of kusala. It is not for us to enjoy our life, but to promote, to cultivate, to reduce defilement, evil forces, to be perfect. That is kusala. So we cannot find out our final salvation or nirvana by performing punya or merit. That is why the Buddha said to Mara, when he was practicing austerity, very hard life, torturing his body, to gain his enlightenment, Mara appeared and advised him, you are a young man, you are a prince, why do you want to suffer like this? What do you gain by suffering like this? Why not you go back to your own kingdom and you can become the ruler? You are the son of that king, Suddhodana. At the same time, you also can do lot of merits. What did the Buddha say? Not yet attain the Buddha. What did he say? Anumattena pi punyena atto maiham na vijjati. Punya. Here the Buddha used the word punya. I am not working to make punya or make merits. I have nothing to do with this punya or this merit. I am working to become the Buddha, to gain enlightenment. These merits cannot give me enlightenment. Merits can give me worldly pleasure, happiness, sensual pleasure. I am not working for these things. This is the way how the Buddha regarded this punya. The more we accumulate punya, the more we can enjoy worldly life. Means to an end. After that, we do not know what will happen to. Devas and Brahmas, due to their merits, they enjoy better life, far better than human beings. They can spend for a longer period, but there must be an end. After that, they do not know what will happen to them. At least as human beings, we can prepare for the next life. But other living beings have no such idea. That is the disadvantage of all the other living beings. We think that this is not the end of our life. Life appears, life disappears. Rising sun, setting sun. It is natural. Life also just like rising and setting. Setting sun become the rising sun to another country. In the same way, after our death, we think this is the end of our life. This is not the end. This is the beginning of another one. This understanding we have. But many other living beings have no such idea. So, what happened? These monks, they were fighting and fighting and fighting and disregarding the advice given by the Buddha. Then the Buddha knew, by advising, I cannot train this man. So he had so many techniques, so many methods. So what he did? He decided to walk out. He went away. They spent 3 months in the jungle. The monks are still fighting. Now the members and the devotees who used to visit the temple notice the Buddha is not there. When they ask, what happened to the Buddha? Where did he go? The monks also could not give direct answer. Then the devotees came to know the Buddha had to go away from this place because of these monks. And what did they do? All right. All of them boycott this monk. Boycotted. Those days, every monk must go out for beginning their food, otherwise nothing to eat. When they go out with their begging bowls, devotees say, sorry, nothing. Because of you we have lost the Buddha. Sorry. After a few weeks, they realized. Now they get together and discussed what to do now. They have forgotten their argument and enmity and differences. So what to do now? Then decided to approach the Buddha and invite him to come back. So went to see him. That is during the rainy season, Vassana. So the Buddha was observing Vassana period in the jungle. He said, now I cannot go out because I am observing this Vassana season period for 3 months. After 3 months I can come back. So during this period, who supported the Buddha? 2 animals in the jungle, elephant and a monkey. Every day provided food, fruits and honeycomb. The monkeys go and offer honeycomb. Then elephant boiled hot water in the jungle. Can you imagine how that animal boiled water for Buddha to take bath? Very intelligent animals. So what this animal did, he bring 2 pieces of dry wood and rub like this and collect dry leaves. After rubbing and rubbing and rubbing and rubbing, and the fire, produce the fire, then burning. After that, bring small stones about this size. When these stones are heated, and with another piece of wood, they roll a stone into a small pond there in the jungle. Then the water becomes very good, boiling water. See? Provided hot water for Buddha to take bath. When he wanted to come back after 3 months, these 2 animals could not tolerate this. They wanted to stop the Buddha. They tried their best to stop. Anyway, the Buddha had to come back. When he came back, he realized the very pathetic situation. These monks are starving. Nobody respects them. Then the Buddha gave this advice. If you have realized this earlier, you never face this kind of problems, difficulties. You did not listen to me. You never thought properly. It is harmful, it is dangerous, this can create enormous trouble. Then you can understand easily what the Buddha says. All these sayings here in Dhammapada due to this kind of incident. Parecha navijananti mayamitsa yamamase yecha tatsa vijananti tattva sammanti medaga. Let us use our own language. If we can understand this dispute, misunderstanding or calamity can create enormous problems and troubles and worries and disturbances and suffering. We can stop this to avoid all these problems. That is the simple meaning. Always use our own language, then don't depend on the book language. You cannot catch the real idea. After reading, you have to use your own word. Then you can remember. So when we analyze this, we can understand. In our day-to-day life, at home, the place where you work, there will be a lot of differences, discrimination, jealousy, and you get angry, some are jealous. Then you say something very poisonous, hurt others' feeling, then others also say something, then become heated argument, then heated argument influence and aggravate the situation, egoism and anger, then create enmity, become enemies. Or sometimes they exchange beating each other because of that minor incident. If not, create enmity in their mind, sometimes throughout their life. They have not learned. By keeping this anger in our mind, we harm ourselves, we harm others, we disturb ourselves, we disturb others. But we want to maintain this enmity. I think you can remember, many times I have told you, although we have done a lot of meritorious deeds, if we die when this anger is boiling in our mind, it is very difficult for us to have a better rebirth, because that anger pollutes our consciousness. Therefore, don't keep anger for a long period. Allow your anger to flare up, and then you must use your understanding. Don't utter anything when you are angry. Keep quiet. Because the words come out from your mouth like bullets. Very painful. Don't take revenge. You must have courage to tolerate. Later, you will come to know that you act wisely. Otherwise, you regret later. Oh, I scolded, I beat, I never knew it is so dangerous. Later, you regret. So we can settle so many human problems that we are facing. We can cultivate our mind. Main purpose, as mentioned by Eddie, the main purpose of religion to maintain peace without allowing those evil forces to pollute, to disturb our mind. So religion is important for that. So if we do not know how to deal with religion for this purpose, actually we are not following a religion. Just take only for the name's sake. There must be some sort of development in our mind. By attending this kind of religious talk, by reading religious books, by participating in various religious activities, or by contributing, there must be some development in your mind. So what is the meaning of development? In your mind, there must be some understanding for you to think, I should not harbor this jealousy. It is harmful, it is dangerous, therefore I must reduce this jealousy. I should not be selfish. I should not enjoy my life by disregarding others when they are suffering. There are certain things that I can contribute to release their suffering. That is called the development of the mind. When others come and irritate you, insult you, accuse you, you should not jump at once, either to fight or to insult the other person. Think wisely by using the knowledge that you have gained. How wise people behave when they were insulted and humiliated. Good example, the Buddha, Socrates, Jesus. How many incidents are there? So they could manage to overcome all these problems because they have learned to act wisely. When others are mad, they don't know to be mad by following them. When others are cruel, they don't know to be cruel by following their ideas. When others are violent and aggressive, they don't know to be violent and aggressive. That is why we regard them as great people. That is why we respect them, worship them. We also can cultivate these qualities. First thing, as I mentioned at the beginning, our egoism is the biggest enemy. Egoism doesn't allow us to surrender our evil thoughts. Behind this egoism, there is another strong mental attitude: ignorance. Ignorance nurtures them, support them. in Paticca Samuppada, dependent upon origination, the wheel of existence, the Buddha started with avidya, ignorance. Avidya paccaya sankhara. Because of our avidya, our ignorance, we create sankhara. Sankhara means karma. We create karma because of our ignorance. This ignorance supports us to create karma. Good karma we create to enjoy our life. Bad enjoy immediately, within few hours. This is the difference. Now you want to go and rob or steal. You experience immediate result. But it is bad karma. You contribute something for the benefit of others, also created karma, but you have to wait sometime up to next life. Hereafter you experience the result. But people cannot wait. That is why they go and rob. As can see the difference. Karma, created by whom? Created by ignorance. Ignorance support. Ignorance doesn't allow our mind to see things properly, to think properly. So we are blindfolded, misled by the ignorance. Besides this, we also create our own imaginations and concept. The concept and imagination we create by measuring, using very limited way of thinking. And limited senses we use to measure things. To reduce these hindrances from our mind, we had to concentrate. We had to approach religion. When I use the word religion, we can take any religion, but different aspect, different concept, different belief, different attitude. But the aim of every religion is to find out peace, find out happiness, find out pleasure, to end all our suffering. But when you come to practice, there are different mentalities, different mental attitudes, but the concept is the same. Now every religion says that this life is not the end. There will be something hereafter. They say either heaven or hell. There is something hereafter. So this is not the end of it. Then some others say, not only heaven and hell, there are so many other places. Here, difference. But all these religions accept that there will be something hereafter. And that something depends on our way of life. How we think, how we talk, how we do our work. These three things are responsible. And those who have no religion, what will happen to them? They don't believe in God. They don't believe heaven and hell. They don't believe rebirth. They also do lot of good work. They also behave like gentlemen without violating basic humane qualities. Then what will happen to them after they are dead? Can you give me the answer? What is their destiny? Say something. There may be few of them here who do not believe all these things. Nothing. Evaporate or extinguish. What will happen to them? Whether we believe in God or Buddha or not, whether we believe in rebirth or not, whether we believe in heaven or hell or not, our human mind is the same, no difference. In every human mind there are three evil roots, whether they have religion or not. Lobha, dosa, moha. They are the roots. All the other evil things come out from one of these. Craving, hatred, or anger, if not, ignorance. We do a lot of bad things because of our craving. We do so many bad things because of our anger or hatred. We do enormous bad things or silly things because of our ignorance. So those who have a religion or those who have no religion makes no difference. Their minds are the same. Then no one can live even 1 minute without creating either good karma or bad karma. Religion has nothing to do with this. Don't think that only those who believe in karma can create the karma. Every minute we create either good karma or bad karma. When we develop our hatred and ill will and anger and evil thoughts, when we cultivate, we create bad karma without doing anything. When we cultivate our compassion, kindness, sympathy, honesty, we create good karma. Only by thinking, good karma. Again we say something according to the ideas that we have implanted in our mind. If they are bad, then these words also create bad karma. If they are good, if we say something with good intention to help others, to support others, to release other sufferings and problems and worries, then we create good karma. Then we do something for our living, for our survival, for our pleasure, to fulfill our duties, to support our families. We do something. Depends how we do. But many people try to do all these things either by stealing or bluffing or swindling or cheating or harming or disturbing others. Then create bad karma. By using our physical body. Then we use our physical body to release others' sufferings, others' problems, others' sufferings. There are many who are in fear. They do not know what to do, how to get rid of them. If we can do something to reduce that fear, to get rid of this fear, it is a meritorious deed. We create good karma. So, religion is not important here, whether they have religion or not. Religion is only some sort of label we use. But our human mind is the same. But the thing is, Religion must give correct advice without arousing emotional feeling, without creating more craving and more attachment. To maintain some sort of purity in the mind. Then we have to choose really. I think all of you know those young people, Kalamas, who came to the Buddha. They say they were confused. There are so many religions. They have different views and ideas and beliefs and practices. And we do not know which religion is correct, which religion is wrong, and we do not know how to choose a correct religion. Then the Buddha has given 10 advices for them to consider how to choose a religion. You might have heard, he said, you should not accept and believe anything just because that appeal to your mind at once. Soothing, appealing. Truth is not there, although it appeals. You like it. You have to consider very carefully. Now small children like so many things according to their mentality. But as elders we can understand that they do not know how to choose. Then you should not accept any religion simply by thinking the majority here in this country or in this world follow this religion. In another discourse, the Buddha says, majority here in this world are fools. Very few intelligence in this world. Therefore, why should we follow the fools? That system is good only for democracy, politics, not for religion. Again, you should not believe anything in the name of your religion just because this is your tradition. For thousands of years, your forefathers carried out, maintained these traditions. Therefore, it is our duty to accept this religion as our traditional religion. Yes, but the truth is not there. So he went on giving this kind of advices. Then again he says, you should not accept any religion thinking that this religion is given or introduced by a great man. By depending on that man, you depend on that man but never realize the truth. Now let us take Buddha. We think the Buddha is a great man. Therefore we accept anything whatever he has said. Accept but never realize. Always say, oh, Buddha says like this, therefore we accept. The Buddha says, Jesus says, that is not the way. You have a thinking mind. You have to use your common sense and understanding. You have to consider unbiasedly, without depending on anybody. And then you can understand whether it is right or wrong. If not, you can say, it is recorded in our holy books. Therefore we have to accept. The Buddha says, don't accept. People can write anything in their books and introduce as holy books, as a divine message given by God or this or that or sort of thing, written by human beings. You also must think whether they are reasonable or sensible or meaningful or practical. Simply you should not accept just because this is in your holy book. Don't try to justify. There are many things in our Buddhist books. We know how these ideas inject into the teachings of the Buddha. Before they started to write, I do not know whether I have repeated. One day, Ananda came and asked the Buddha, why there are no ladies in this country as judges or justice in the court? Not even a single woman as judge in this country. Then what did the Buddha say? Ananda, women cannot become judges. They are narrow-minded, jealous, emotional. They cannot come to any final conclusions unbiasedly. Therefore, they are not suitable to become judges. Do you believe that Buddha has said this kind of thing? There are so many sayings in various other discourses where the Buddha praised women. And why he wanted to ridicule or condemn women here in this particular. And what do ladies think about the Buddha when they read this holy book? Today there are prime ministers, judges, even in Muslim countries. How can we say women cannot become even a judge? These are the damages done by the Brahmins who have entered into the holy order as monks to spoil the Buddha's name, because they were against for giving this freedom to women to enter into the holy order. First time in the human history, Buddha has done this. That is why they had to hold Buddhist council 3 months after passing away with the Buddha, 100 years after his passing away, 200 years after his passing away, 300 years went on like this, because they came to know new ideas, new practices, new beliefs they have incorporated into the Buddha's teaching. So during this council they discussed and discarded so many new ideas introduced mostly by Brahmins. This is one of them. I never believe that the Buddha has ever said like this. There are many more things like this. Another thing. When ladies wanted to become nun into holy order, Buddha refused. 3 times he rejected. Because by knowing the difficulty of that way of life, he is right. It's not like today. This is 2,500 years ago in Indian society. Later, they came and explained to Ananda, Buddha's stepmother, Mahapajapati Gotami. She said, please go and tell the Buddha, when his mother died when he was 7 days old, I am the one who looked after, and I have done everything for him. So when I want to become a nun, he refused. He said, cannot. Go and tell him. Then the Buddha also had to think twice. He said, all right. Under certain conditions. She said, yes. Then he has given 8 conditions for women to follow. One of them is even 100 years old nun must worship and respect but 20 years old young monk. Assume that nun, 100 years old nun, is a mother. Her younger son has become a monk. He is 20, in 20. So this mother nun must come and worship this young monk. So wherever I go, people ask this question, mostly women. Is it justifiable? Where is human right? Very difficult to answer. Why they wanted to be so low? Why so much discrimination, man and woman here, after entering into the holy order? I don't believe this is the Buddha's condition. All these things they have added. But there is one thing that I like among those 8 conditions. What is that? Under any circumstances, a nun should not scold a monk. I like that one. Whether it is Buddha's condition or not, I like it. These are very interesting, thing we have to discuss and think unbiasedly. We should not surrender ourselves to our holy books also. Then we can find out things, whether they are right or wrong. So this advice that the Buddha has given is very important for us to practice, to avoid so many problems. Whenever there is any misunderstanding, or anger, or jealousy, or calamity, or argument, we should not aggravate this situation by adding more and more fire. Then we had to face so many problems. If we act wisely by following this advice given by the Buddha, we can maintain peace, we can live happily. Susukhang vata jivama verinesu averino. Verinesu manussesu viharama averino. In the same Dhammapada, the Buddha says, we can live happily among those who hate without hating them, without joining with them to hate others. We can live happily, although they hate us. This is the So better to stop today. So prepare next Friday, talk and meditation, both. That Dharmakaya meditation master will be coming from Thailand. Now you don't bring your daily Buddhist devotion. This book is no more. Every day we get telephone calls and letters asking this book to reprint very soon. Very big demand, especially in other countries like Australia. So they use this, their Bible, When they travel, they keep this in their handbag. Imina punya kammena upajjaya gunuttara Acari upakaraja mata pita piyamamang Sriyo Chandi Maharaja Gunavanta Narapicha Brahma Maharaja Indacha Lokapalacha Devata Yamo mitta manusacha majjata verikapicha sabbe satta sukhi ontu punyani bhakatani me සුඛං ච ත්‍රිවිධං දෙන්තු කිප්පං පාපේතවෝ මතං ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන ඉමිනා උද්දිසේන ච කිප්පං සුලභේ චේව තන්නෝපාදාන චේතනං යේ සන්තානේහි නා ධම්මා යාව නිබ්බානතෝ මමං නස්සන්තු සබ්බදායේව යත් ජාතෝ භවේ භවේ උජුචිත්තෝ සතිපඤ්ඤෝ සල්ලේකෝ විරියවාමිනා මාරාලබන්තු නෝකාසං කාතුංච විරියේසු මේ බුද්ධාදී පවරෝ නාතෝ ධම්මෝ නාතෝ අරුත්තමෝ නාතෝ පච්චේක සම්බුද්ධෝ සංඝෝ නාතෝතරෝ මමං තේසෝත්තමානුභාවේන මාරෝකාසං ලභන්තු මා